The restaurant was dressed for joy, but loneliness sat heavier than any decoration. Soft golden lights hung like constellations above polished wooden tables, and a grand Christmas tree shimmered near the entrance, its ornaments reflecting laughter that never reached the corner booth by the window. Outside, snow drifted gently onto the quiet city streets, muffling the world as if even sound had decided to be kind tonight. Ethan Hale, CEO of one of the largest tech conglomerates in the country, stared into his untouched glass of water. The waiter had already asked twice if he was ready to order. Ethan nodded absently, then returned to his thoughts. Christmas Eve dinners were supposed to be loud, warm, shared. Yet here he was, alone, wearing a tailored suit that cost more than some people's yearly rent, feeling poorer than he ever had. 5 years ago, this night had meant something else. There had been a woman across from him then, his wife, Claire, smiling softly, reminding him to slow down, to taste the food, to be present. There had been plans for children, traditions waiting to be born. But ambition had been louder. Meetings had replaced moments, success had replaced connection, and one winter morning, Claire had packed her things and left behind a note that said, "I hope one day you're rich in the ways that matter." She had died a year later in a car accident. Ethan had read the news on his phone between board meetings. He had cried once, alone in his office, and then never again. Grief, like love, had been filed away as an inconvenience. Tonight, for reasons he didn't fully understand, the grief had found him. He finally ordered something he wouldn't taste and folded his hands together, watching families arrive, parents shaking snow from coats, children tugging excitedly at sleeves, couples sharing quiet smiles. Every laugh felt like a reminder of a life he had missed while chasing one he thought he wanted. The bell above the restaurant door chimed again. A woman stepped inside, holding the door open against the cold with her shoulder. She wore a simple coat, worn at the cuffs, and her hair was pulled back in a loose ponytail that had surrendered to the long day. Behind her came 2 little girls, identical in every way that mattered, matching red scarves, wide curious eyes, and hands locked together as if the world made more sense when faced side by side. They paused just inside, snow clinging to their boots. The hostess glanced down at her tablet, her smile faltering. The restaurant was full. It always was on Christmas Eve. Ethan watched the interaction without meaning to, his eyes drawn by the girls' excitement slowly turning into confusion. "I'm so sorry," the hostess said gently. "We're completely booked tonight." The woman nodded, her smile tight but polite. "I understand. Thank you anyway." One of the girls tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mama, it's okay," she whispered, trying to sound brave. "We can go back." The other girl nodded quickly. "Yeah. We still have the candles." The woman's eyes softened, and she crouched down to their level. "That's right," she said. "We don't need a fancy dinner to have Christmas." But something in her voice cracked just enough to be heard. Ethan felt an unexpected tightening in his chest. He didn't know these people. Their lives had nothing to do with his. And yet, he saw something painfully familiar in the woman's expression, the practiced strength, the quiet exhaustion, the way hope was carefully rationed. Before he could overthink it, he raised a hand. "Excuse me," he said, his voice carrying across the room more than he intended. The hostess turned. The woman and her daughters turned. "There's room at my table," Ethan said. The word surprised him as much as anyone else. "If you'd like." The woman hesitated. Pride and necessity waged a brief war on her face. Then she looked down at her daughters, who were already smiling, their eyes alight with possibility. "That's very kind," she said slowly. "But we don't want to intrude." "You wouldn't be," Ethan replied. "I insist." After a moment, she nodded. "Thank you." They walked over together. The girls climbed onto the booth seat across from him, their feet dangling, while their mother slid in beside them. I'm Lily, one girl said immediately, her voice bright. And I'm Lucy, the other added, just as quickly. The woman smiled. I'm Anna. Ethan, he said, feeling strangely shy. Menus were handed out again. The girls studied theirs seriously, whispering to each other as if making a life-altering decision. Anna watched them with a tenderness that made Ethan look away, suddenly aware of how long it had been since anyone had looked at him that way. As they ordered, the girls asked questions. About the tree, about the snow, about whether Ethan lived nearby. He answered simply, honestly, finding that he didn't want to impress them. He just wanted to be real. When the food arrived, the girls' eyes widened. This smells amazing, Lucy said. It looks like a movie dinner, Lily added. Anna smiled apologetically at Ethan. They're not used to places like this. That's okay, he said. Neither am I, apparently. She laughed softly, surprised, and the sound did something to him. Loosened a knot he hadn't known was there. As they ate, the conversation unfolded naturally. Anna spoke of her work as a freelance seamstress, how she took jobs from home so she could be there when the girls returned from school. She didn't mention their father until later, when one of the girls casually said, "Daddy used to like Christmas lights." Anna's hand stilled for just a second before she continued eating. "Yes," she said quietly. "He did. He passed away 2 years ago," she explained to Ethan, not with self-pity, but with the simple honesty of someone who had learned to live with loss. "It's just been us since then." Ethan nodded. "I'm sorry." She met his eyes. "Thank you." The girls finished their meals and began drawing pictures on the paper placemats with crayons the waiter brought over. They drew snowmen, stars, and one very lopsided Christmas tree. "Who's that?" Ethan asked, pointing to a small figure Lily had drawn beside 2 taller ones. "That's you," she said matter-of-factly. "Because you're here with us on Christmas Eve." The words hit him harder than any boardroom criticism ever had. When the bill came, Ethan reached for it instinctively. "No," Anna said firmly, placing her hand over his. "We can share." "Please," he said. "Let me." She studied his face for a moment, then nodded. "All right. But only because it's Christmas." After dinner, as they prepared to leave, Anna thanked him again. "You didn't just give us a table," she said. "You gave us a memory." Ethan swallowed. "I think you did the same for me." Outside, the snow had grown heavier. The girls waved enthusiastically before heading down the street, their laughter trailing behind them like music. Ethan stood there for a long moment, watching them disappear into the white glow of streetlights. Something inside him felt different. Lighter, but also more alive. That night, back in his penthouse, he didn't turn on the television. He didn't check his email. He sat by the window and thought about a woman named Anna, 2 little girls with red scarves, and a Christmas Eve that had changed without warning. The next morning, he made a call. Within weeks, a small but well-funded community initiative quietly began: support for single parents, flexible grants, no publicity, no press releases. Ethan didn't put his name on it. He didn't need to, but every Christmas Eve after that, he returned to the same restaurant. Sometimes he dined with Anna and the girls. Sometimes he shared a table with strangers. He listened more. He worked less. And slowly, steadily, the kind of wealth that couldn't be measured began to find its way back into his life. All because, on one cold Christmas Eve, he had chosen not to dine alone.